Welcome back. I don't know how many of these we've done here in the. I hope you guys enjoy my view from the Intercontinental Hotel room. Let's see, we did one after pool play, I think, and then after the round of 16 quarters and now semis. So our fourth little World Champs recap, daily recap, I think. And my heart rate has just come down, I think, from the only good semifinal that we had the entire day here on Saturday in Adelaide, probably Friday for most of you guys, or super early Saturday morning for pretty much everyone by the end of it. Kristen, Nuss, Taryn, Brasher, their semifinal, that's where we're going to begin, over Rebecca and Carol. Said it in last night's recap/preview that was the hardest one. The only one I was really hemming and hawing over who to pick. And I ended up, back in Hamburg, I said, I'm taking Kristen and Taryn to win the World Championships. Also picked Anders Mol, Christian Sorum. That didn't really go my way. But the Kristen Taryn pick, that's who I had. But then given the context of how Kristen and Taryn were playing versus Carol and Rebecca, I was like, man, I'm having a tough time. I might have to pick Carol and Rebecca, and I did. And so, hand up. I ended up being wrong about that one, but coming in to that match, and I said it on the commentary with Kyle, I said, here's your two factors. Can Rebecca side out, and can Kristen navigate the pool digging of Carol? And you have both of those come into play. So before the first switch, Carol's already leading the match in digs. She has 3. And throughout that first set, Kristen had a really tough time because Brazil did something that I've heard people mention as ideas, but I've never seen it actually executed, where they just played 2 down. Carol would get about as far away from the net as I am from you. She would have her hand up, and so if it became tight, she could step close and block. But then if it wasn't a super tight set, then she would just get out and pull. And I've never seen anyone actually do it, maybe because nobody's actually good at, no one in the world is as good as Carol is at pool dinging. Maybe best ever. The only other one I can think of that's in that category with her is Agatha. But so Carol and Rebecca, they proved to be kind of this nightmarish combo for Kristen in that first set, where Carol's pool digging. She's getting a ton of aces. She had 4 aces by the end of that first set. She's getting a ton of blocks. She's leading the tournament in blocks. And defensively, they just gave Kristen and Taryn this puzzle that they weren't able to solve in the first set. Out we go for the second. Kristen and Taryn figure it out. Here comes Taryn, on 2, on 2, on 2. They're figuring out the passes. Rebecca starts struggling big time in serve receive. She's not siding out. Carol's optioning, but not nearly enough. Kristen's now mixing up her offense, going deep seam, working outside the body of Carol, because if you hit Carol here, it's coming back up, there's zero question. But if you work to the outside, she has a tough time, especially because Kristen being a right side player, Carol's pulling on the left. And so a lot of times your first move as a puller is to open up to the court. That's the way that Carol does it. And so if you then have a fast one this way, now Carol has to bend all the way and try to redirect it back into the court. And so Kristen, time and time again, would chop line, chop line, chop line, and Carol she'd get her hands on it, but it wasn't good enough to be settable. And then so Carol starts pulling more line, Kristen goes cut. Carol's still pulling line, Rebecca sits on cut, Kristen goes seam. And so Kristen's just starting to mix it up. Meanwhile, Taryn is still going on 2. They end up winning that set they were up 2014. And here I am on the broadcast saying, hey, for the first time all day, we're going to have a third set. It is a matter of when, not if. Well, here comes a side out for Brazil, 2015, no problem. There's an earn for Brazil, 2016, no problem. Another earn for Brazil. Now it's 17, and me and Kyle are looking at each other and saying, do we remember that we got our tee? We got that timeout, ladies. No timeout called. Ace gets him to 2018. Timeout. I think it's too late. Maybe it would have mattered, maybe not. We'll never know. So they come back out. Earn point Brazil. 6 straight points after Kristen and Taryn go up 20-14. Send it to 2020. Crazy enough, that's not the first time that's happened in this tournament alone. Now, their second round playoff matchup against Kazakhstan Raiseskun. It wasn't 2016, it wasn't 2014, it was 2016, and it was 6 straight for the Netherlands. Well, here it is, 6 straight for Brazil, only this time it was the second set and not the first. And now, if they give up another 2, their World Championships hopes are over. They get it together, they win that second set, 24-22, they survive. But it felt as if Brazil had won that second set and not the U.S. It felt like going into that third set that the United States was going to have to figure out a way to come back from losing in that second set. Well, they figured it out in a big way. So the first set, Brazil jumps all over the U.S., they win. Second set, U.S. jumps all over Brazil, they win. It was a 5-2 switch for Brazil in the first. It was a 6-1 switch for the U.S. in the first, and both teams just carried it out to the win. Third set comes along, 4-1 lead U.S., and they just fly. And here's where that matchup came into play. Rebecca, we've talked about it a lot on the comms, has hit a lot of errors this tournament, was coming into that match with 32 errors. That is 11 more than Kristen and Taryn as a team. So she had 11 more errors herself than Kristen and Taryn did as a team. And meanwhile, her side out was still in the mid-60s. So even with those errors, she was still siding out really well, but she can give some away. And in the third set, and I actually want to bring up the numbers of how many she gave away, because it was a big number in that third set. So in the third, total, Rebecca and Carol would hit 23 errors in the match. In that third set, it would be 6 errors for Rebecca and 1 for Carol. And so they made more errors than they scored points in the third set. Kristen and Taryn go on to win 15-6. My heart rate is still elevated. Let's see, it's 10:06 p.m., early night for your boy. Love it. Carrie Potter, she was like, what are you guys getting up to tonight? And I was like, I am recording this and I'm getting to bed before 1:30 in the morning. Thank you very much. And so they're moving on into the finals. Kristen and Taryn, they are looking to be the second. We haven't had a back-to-back U.S. champion since Misty May and Carrie Walsh-Jennings did it in 2007, backed up in 2009 by April Ross and Jen Kessie. Kelly Chang, Sarah Hughes, won in 2023. Looking for another U.S. gold medal here in 2025 with Kristen and Taryn. However, they will have to beat the team playing better than anybody in the world right now, and that is Graudina and Anastasija Samoilova. Now, I said last night that I'd made a mistake on the comms and that I didn't realize Tina and Anastasia hadn't dropped a set. Well, today in the semifinals up against world number 1 Thamela and Victoria, they did not drop a set, nor did they get anywhere close. They came out, had this genius game plan, and they didn't let Victoria touch a single ball. They went right at Thamela. World champs rookie, hasn't been to Olympic Games. This is the biggest stage she's ever been on. Maybe that had something to do with it. Maybe it was just Tina and Anastasia playing unbelievable. Maybe she's still a little bit hurt when they had to forfeit out of their last tournament. There's a lot of different factors that could have gone in there, but the game plan was perfect. Tina and Anastasia, they jump all over Thamela. They have no quarter. They just all gas, no brakes, pedal to the metal, 21-10, 21-16, absolute flattening of the world number 1. And I'd said it kind of all week, and really all year that Thamela and Victoria have been the number 1 in the world. I've never really acknowledged it. When I talk about Kristen and Taryn, I say that they're the best team in the world. Because when you have a best team in the world, or at least for the women's side, we've sort of been spoiled with, I call them Death Stars. Just these indomitable teams where you think of Misty May and Carrie. That's the number 1 team in the world. That's a dominant duo. You think of April and Carrie. You think of April and Alex Kleiman. You think of Anna Patricia and Duda. You think of Kristen and Taryn, teams that just win, and they don't just win, but they dominate. They absolutely flatten teams, and that isn't what Thamela and Victoria do. They barely beat Peru without dropping a set. They barely escape against France. They barely escape against Ukraine. They barely escape against Ukraine again. Now, to their credit, they were fantastic in a sweep win over Valentina Gottardi and Reka Orsi-Toth, but the question was, can you sustain it? Because they're not always that dominant, and they weren't. And They didn't come out. They came out, they looked terrified against Tina and Anastasija. And Tina and Anastasija, they looked like they'd been here before, and they haven't. But where they have been here before is the Olympics. 2024 Olympics, they went to the quarterfinals. 2021 Olympics, they went to the semifinals. And I think that big tournament experience plays a big role in these matches, as Tina and Anastasija, they were poised, they were in control, they controlled the serve, they controlled the block, they controlled the pass, they controlled the set, they controlled the side out. What they did on court was exactly what Kristen and Taryn actually did to them in the Stade gold medal match, where when I made that comparison, and I was like, it's almost like when Agent Smith is fighting Neo and he's shooting bullets and he's trying to punch and he's trying to do all this stuff, and Neo's just in slow motion, just looking at these bullets whiz by, and he's like, interesting. And he's just dodging and dipping, and the other team is just doing anything they can, and they just were never stressed. And they were in control, just like they were against Kelly Chang and Molly Shaw. Kelly and Molly put up a little bit better of a fight, but Tina and Anastasija, they haven't messed around at all in these world championships. They have just flattened teams en route to their gold medal match. And I hedged my bet last night by picking Carol and Rebecca to win. I think Tina and Anastasija are playing better than Kristen and Taryn. And my head goes Tina and Anastasija. But I'm sticking with the bet that I made in Hamburg when I said Kristen and Taryn are going to win. And so I'm going to go with Kristen and Taryn for that gold medal match. The semis, or the semis, the bronze medal match will be an all-Brazil clash between world number 1 and world number 2, Thamela and Victoria, up against Carol and Rebecca. I'd go Carol, Rebecca for that one, just because I've been on all their matches the entire week, and they've been phenomenal, and we're still pretty good in this match, but they just, 23 errors, not going to beat a good team, making 23 errors, and they didn't. So my bronze medal pick will be Carol and Rebecca. Gold medal goes to Kristen, Taryn. Silver will be Tina and Anastasija. Some fun facts I kind of stumbled across was that Brazil is leading. They have had 22 teams in the semifinals of these World Championships for the women. They have won 18 medals, 6 gold, 6 silver, 6 bronze. The United States has sent 15, now 16 teams into the semifinals, and they have made 5 gold, 5 silver, 3 bronze. The rest of the world combined has won 12 medals. That's how dominant these federations have been. And so Tina and Anastasija, they have a chance to represent the non-USA and Brazil contingent of the world, and they're going to try to take them down. But for Tina and Anastasija, is the first Latvian women's team to ever win a world championship medal. Is the first one to ever make a quarterfinal, ever to make a semifinal. They're making history. The last Latvian team to make a world championship semifinal was 2011 in Rome. And I have it here, but I want to... Martins Plavins and Janis Smedens. I'm going to fact check that. I think it was Plavins and Smedens in 2000. I know it was 11 in Rome. Boom! Martins Plavins and Janis Smedens. So they ended up taking 4th, and that's the only time a Latvian team has ever made it this far. Well, Tina and Anastasija, they go one step further. They're guaranteed Latvia's first ever World Championship medal. A huge congrats to them, and they've earned it. They are playing so dang good. Going to the men's side, I'm going to have a quick sip of hot chocolate, ladies and gentlemen. It's nice to talk to you guys. My brain still has a little bit of functioning left. Doing those midnight ones. I'm a morning person. I'm not a night owl. So it might have seemed like I was high functioning at night, but your boy was running on autopilot. I don't know what was coming out of my mouth. The brain to mouth connection was still just kind of on autopilot from commentating. Now I at least have a little bit left. Diminishing returns. But as always, these little Beach Access World Champs recaps brought to you by our good friends at Shield. Go to shieldhealthandfitness.com. Anytime you need any kind of tape, they got you covered. Everything's made in America. You use the code SANDCAST, they're going to get you a nice little discount code. Now on to the men's side. Now I said that Tina and Anastasija, they looked better than any team today. That went for the women. That did not go for the whole field, because the team that looked the best, David Oman, Jonatan Hellvig. My God. There was just, I don't know what Nils Ehlers and Clemens Wickler did to them, but they put a spanking on them, 21-10, 21-14. Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing that Germany could have done. It was just one of those matches that no matter where you put it, David Oman was there. It was the best defensive performance I think I've seen in my entire life. Now, in the Olympics, it was all Hellvig. Not all Hellvig. Oman, of course, he did some good things. But Hellvig was the one who dominated. Here, it was a combination. It was that perfect synchronicity between Hellvig being the smart and disciplined and athletic blocker he is, and Oman being the sensational mutant that he is on defense, just getting every kind of touch, frustrating Ehlers and Wickler to death. And Germany was never in that match. Even at the second set, when it was 11-10, and Nils is fiery in the technical timeout, they weren't in it. And I give them all the credit in the world, where they groveled and they gritted and they stayed in the fight through the next couple points out of the technical timeout. But then Oman he was unbelievable. They allowed 24 total points. At the Paris Olympics, they allowed 23 total points. And so they're now 14-1 against that German team. Last time Ehlers and Wickler beat them was in 2023 in Topeka. And that didn't really matter because that was pool play. Apparently, Oman and Hellvig just don't give two shits about pool play. That's when they lose, because they lost in pool play there in Topeka, and then they won a gold medal. They lost twice in pool play in Paris, and then they won a gold medal. It's like they just use pool play as a slingshot, and they're like, let me pull me back, and phew, out we go. And so they're just slingshotting their way to another World Championship gold medal match. They took second in 2023 in Tlaxcala, Mexico. Lost, of course, to Andrei Perusic and David Schweiner. They will not meet the Czech Republic in the finals. Guess who they'll meet? As we said, man, where did we record this? Was it Montreal? Montreal, I think. And they will meet another fucking Sweden. It is just outrageous. What are they doing over there? I need to go over there. I need to take a recruiting trip or just a coach enrichment camp to talk to Razzie Johnson and Anders Christensen and just watch their practices, because they will meet Jakob Holting Nilsson and Elmer Anderson in the finals, and all Sweden World Championship final. And Oman said it on the broadcast. It's like, we're not exactly known for beach volleyball. Well, now you are, buddy. You have an Olympic gold medal. You are guaranteed a World Championship gold medal. You are guaranteed a World Championship silver medal. All this 2 years after you sent the first Swedish team to a World Championship semifinal and a final and winning a medal. So history was made 2 years ago. Double the history is made now. And I was talking to Razzie before David and Jonathan played. I said, that's a pretty good start. And he said, yeah, the young boys played well. We'll see if we can get another one. You left no doubt that you got another one. And so it's going to be Jakob Holting Nilsson, Elmer Anderson up against the Princes, the elder statesman at 24 and 23 years old, David Oman, Jonatan Hellvig. Get your popcorn ready. But I think if you'd asked me after pool play or even after the first 2 rounds of elimination who I'd pick, I probably would have said Jakob and Elmer. After watching today, older Sweden has reached you cannot bet against them territory. That's a territory that's only ever been inhabited to me by Anders Mol and Christian Sorum, but I'm going with Oman and Hellvig. In that one, I think that just the way that David plays, the way he played today, there's no one like him. When he plays like that today, he's by far not by far, all due respect to Anders Mol. When David plays like he did today, there's no one who can take over a match like him. And so I'm going with them. But I think it'll be very notable how they play one another, because nobody knows Sweden like Sweden, and that goes both ways. No one knows Oman and Hellvig quite like Holting Nilsson and Anderson. No one knows Holting Nilsson and Anderson quite like Oman and Hellvig. So I think the world is going to be waiting with pens and notebooks in hand, and as soon as that film goes up, people will be watching it over and over and over again, because how they play each other is going to be very indicative of where they think the tendencies are in each other's games. And so I'm excited for that one. Going to go Ahman and Hellvig. Now, all credit where it's due, Holting, Nilsson, and Anderson, they played very well against Theo Rotar and Arnaud Gauthier-Ra of France. Congrats to France, by the way. First men's semifinalists in French beach volleyball history. And Theo's doing it, just 21 years old. And Gauthier, it's not like he's some old dude. He's 29. So he's got plenty of good years left in him. They lost 21-18, 21-17. The scores, I think, reflect a match that looks closer than it was, as France looked pretty nervy to start. And meanwhile, we've been calling Sweden the Icemen because back in Stad, me and Kyle said, hey, these boys got ice in their veins. They're young and they're just not showing it. And they showed why they're the Icemen. They were just so cool, so calm under pressure. And it was awesome to see the emotion of Holting Nilsson. He has been the most stoic guy that I've seen, where every time he does something that he's never done before, he acts like he's been there before. They make those finals in Montreal by beating Ahman and Hellvig in the semifinals, and he's just like, yeah, well, good game, been here before. And then he just erupts after that final ball goes down in that semifinal today, and you could see how much it meant to him. Finally, you could see how much it meant to him, and I really enjoy all my interactions I've had with him. He's the nicest dude, and he just goes about his business quietly. Elmer is a little bit more hard on his sleeve. You can tell how he's feeling. He's a competitor, and getting to talk with Anders Christensen about him, and he says, I love coaching Elmer. Obviously, he loves coaching Jakob too, but he said, Elmer, he's so focused at practice every day. We give him no easy reps. They don't give any easy reps. Like, all the reps you'll see, just like lobbing in free balls, that doesn't happen in Sweden. He said, every serve is as hard as we can get it. Every down ball is as hard as we can get it. And you can see it. And that focus has led Elmer to being one of the best defensive players in the world, whereas in Stad, when I was watching him, and I came back, and Nick Lucena at Florida State, he's like, how's that young Swedish team? And I was like, that defender's got a long ways to go before he's up there. But the blocker, yeah, he's there already. Elmer, he's there. He has fully arrived. One of the best defensive players in the world, Holting Nilsson. I think he's the best setter in the world. And they're here. But I think they will be underdogs. They can beat Sweden. They've proven that they can. The older Sweden, you get it. But I think it's going to be Ahman and Hellvig. I think that they will be crowned world champions. And I think Holting Nilsson and Anderson will get that silver. As for bronze, Ehlers, Wickler versus Rotar and Gauthier. You know, I was talking with Kyle about it, and you look at Ehlers and Wickler's route, and it has been insane. You come out, your first rounder is the 2024 European Championships finals against Martins Plavins and Christians Folkerats. You beat them. Congratulations. Here's your reward. You get to play the best team of the last 7 years, Anders Mol and Christian Sorm. You beat them. Here's your reward. The world champions from 2023 who were playing better than they did in 2023, Andre Perusic and David Schweiner. Congratulations, you beat them. Here's your reward. The Olympic gold medalists, the ones who absolutely stuffed you in the finals, 21-10, 21-13. And I was talking to Kyle about it, and I was like, do you run out of battery at some point? Like, does each one of those just take a little bit of life away? And you just come out and you're like a boxer in the 13th round, and you're cut and you're bloodied and you've taken some body blows, and you're like Rocky, and you can't see out of this eye, and you're just trying to hang in there, and you just can't anymore. I wonder what the compound effect of one titanic match after the next had for Germany, because not that France had an easier route. You got to beat Sharif and Ahmed, but they haven't had the route that Germany did, as France opened up not with Plavins and Folkerats, but with Argentina's twos. Their quarterfinal was not against the defending world champs, but against a team who's never been there in Lucas Frechner and Sven Winter from Germany, a good team, not the world champs. And so maybe France is going to come in with just a little bit left in the mind and in the legs, and I think that their defeat was a little bit less deflating. It's hard. Man, that's a hard one to pick. Sorry, I know this is scintillating content with me just musing over who to pick. My heart says France, just because I think that they will have gotten the nerves out of this stage out of the way today. And Germany, I mean, you just got cracked over the head. But how do you bet against a team that beats Anders and Christian and Plavins and Fokrats? How do you bet against a team that beats Sharif and Ahmed? I don't know. I can't make that pick right now. I will make it in the morning and I'll let you know. Yeah, I can't do it. Got some tinkering to do. Thanks as always for hanging out here in the Intercontinental Hotel. To my ramblings, you guys seem to have enjoyed them. The last one will be coming in tomorrow. Tomorrow's episode will serve as our long form episode on Wednesday. I'll try to get it up early. I'll try to get it up before my flight is out. But Wednesday you will not have your usual SANDCAST episode because we've overloaded you guys this week. So Sunday will be a World Champs recap, and then we will have a little bit of a break. Just giving an early heads up there. But thanks for hanging out at the Intercontinental Hotel. I'm going to finally get to bed before 1:30 in the morning. I'm going to go chat with my wife and kids. I hope you guys are enjoying the commentary. And we got one more day. All right, let's go. World champs. Flat white.